Jim Romer, Dr. Weather, going to be talking about the strongest polar vortex in probably at least 8 to 10 years and how it's also contributing to La Nina and why grain prices perhaps have bottomed. We told our clients this about a week or so ago. And also the coldest weather in January in many years could mean natural gas prices perhaps to $4 or higher sometime later in the month. So first of all, we have an ozone hole. It's only occurred really twice in the last 15 to 20 years. Both were actually during La Nina events. The ozone hole actually begins to really strengthen the polar vortex and can lead to cold outbreaks if that vortex weakens and moves south during the course of the winter. In one of our recent newsletters here about a week ago, we talked about this, the volatility in the natural gas market, and also the formation of west-based La Nina Marakai, we call it. You can actually download a free issue of my newsletter, Weather Wealth, from my website, or get a 2-week free trial period, one trade alone. Like being long cocoa last year, it's around like $30,000 to $50,000 a contract in the last few months, or possibly short grains last summer, like I mentioned, no drought last summer. The natural gas volatility easily could pay for the service for 1 year, though past performance is, of course, not indicative of future results. So in the ozone layer, in the upper stratosphere, 30 to 50 miles up in space, we are seeing the polar vortex. Look at that in white. 498 represents the pressure, the coldest weather we've seen aloft over the North Pole here this past week. Warm weather over much of Canada there in red in the eastern United States has created natural gas volatility, but the stratospheric winds, the arrow there is going to weaken. The winds are going to be weakened over the North Pole, and that sometimes happens with weak La Nina events. What does that mean? That cold vortex you see there is going to be pushing south. In a combination to that, we have an MJO disturbance, a Pacific disturbance that rotates around the globe every 30 to 60 days. And that disturbance is going to be going into a certain phase we call phase 7 and phase 8. We'll talk about that in a second. And as a result, all these factors together, the stratospheric warming, the polar vortex, La Nina forming, and the MJO is going to create a negative Arctic Oscillation Index and bring some cold and snow. If it persists for more than a couple of weeks, natural gas prices would go over to $4. That's what we're doing at Weather Wealth. How do we second guess models? Will you be in option strategies or futures? When do you get out? How do you second guess models? That's what we do at Weather Wealth. So the MJO index that I talked about here a minute ago, right now there, the arrow there and left over Indonesia and to the east of India in phase 5 and 6 has resulted in kind of a warm and very seesaw back and forth December. But as it moves into phase 7 and phase 8, our Client Predict program looks at these teleconnections from sea ice to El Nino to the Arctic Oscillation Index and MJO, is predicting this kind of weather pattern probably for the entire month of January. Look at that. A weak La Nina Marakai tends to be a cold trough T in the eastern half of the country. Lots of snow for sure. If we get that cold further west, it could hurt some of the wheat crop in the plains, as there's no snow cover there right now. But for the most part, this is going to be an energy play over the next few weeks or so. Now, we have also La Nina forming, but it's a Modikai, a west-based La Nina. Look at that warming to the east of that blue region to the west of Peru. Usually you see La Nina form closer to the coast of Peru and northern South America. It's forming further west. And that also suggests that kind of weather pattern, trough and blue in the east for the month of January. If it persists, we're going to see an explosion in natural gas prices and various spreads in energy plays in heating oil that we'll recommend to our clients here over the course of the next few weeks. So with La Nina Modikai forming, yes, we all know about the big South American crop, poor demand from China for soybeans, a stronger dollar. A lot of that's in the market. We actually made a recommendation here in the last week or so that to our clients that potentially we could be bottoming in corn and beans to look at long positions after my bearish attitude, mostly for 2 years, folks, in grains. If La Nina continues into the spring or summer of 2025, that could be bullish. So look at this. We expect at least 1 to 2 inches below normal rainfall for the month of June based on all these teleconnections, and that could mean a potential bull market in corn. these signals we look at really help us second guess models, the European and also GFS models. So typically with La Nina, you see a negative correlation. This is with El Nino, you tend to see cooler temperatures. A negative correlation usually means cool temperatures in Argentina, dry but cool. But notice this hottest signal, the highest correlation there, 0.89, is actually related to ocean temperatures around Indonesia and India. That's a stronger correlation, folks, than the cooler La Nina signal. And as a result, from my program here, I expect a hot, dry January right during pollination in Argentina corn regions. As a matter of fact, our corn spider became friendly about 2 weeks ago. Markets were out about 4 or 5% here. We're watching pollination. You can see there on the left is getting a little bit dry, red, stressed regions. Obviously, ethanol demand, the dollar, everything else with China affects the grain market, but we're trying to focus mostly on the weather situation. Will we see this drought in red and orange in the Western Corn Belt remain into the spring and summer of 2025? Subscribe to Weather Wealth. We'll give you option strategies using all our teleconnections. We'll discuss the grain market and all soft and natural gas commodities. Look at the white, kind of normal soil moisture now in western Kansas through Texas. That's one reason why about a month and a half to 2 months ago, we had a quick 40-cent move down in wheat as a drought broke in the plains wheat regions. But there's problems in Russia, and that red area C over the Northwest Corn Belt could expand into the wheat areas by April, May, and June. And if it does, wheat prices could bottom later on this winter or spring. Stay tuned. Get a 2-week free trial period to Weather Wealth. Learn how I help farmers and traders all over the world easily pay for my service for several years with one trade. Enjoy.